What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Eagles rundown on the channel. The Eagles beat the Rams 28-22 in the Divisional Round Snow Bowl. Now, it wasn't the prettiest win, but a win is a win, and the Eagles will move on to the NFC Championship Game against the Washington Commanders next Sunday at 3 o'clock at Lincoln Financial Field. Now, that's big. If we were to face the Detroit Lions, we were going to be the away team, but now we have home field advantage as Washington moves on. They surprise Detroit as they upset them in that crazy shootout game, 45-31 over on Saturday night. Now, my first reactions of this Eagles game is that there's things we need to work on. You know, they didn't play too complete, if that's the right word. They didn't play as a complete team. Their defense was pretty solid for most of the game, and their offense had some moments, with Saquon Barkley being amazing as always, but I just didn't feel a lot of spice in that offense. I know Kellen Moore, which I'll talk about him later in the video, he just wasn't very sharp with the play calling. Jalen Hurts looked a little rough. We'll talk about Jalen Hurts in a little bit. The offensive line seemed to not be giving Hurts enough time. Needless to say, I think they gave him enough time most of the time, but the offensive line needs to improve a little bit for Washington. And we'll just hop right into the Eagles' defense. So without Nakobe Dean, I thought we looked pretty good. You know, you're losing one of your starting linebackers. Oren Burks had to take over the starting spot in this game, and he actually played very well. I thought it was going to be Jeremiah Trotter. I talked about in my last rundown. I really thought Trotter was going to get the start, but it ended up being Oren Burks, and Burks played really well for the time he was in. He wasn't missing a lot of tackles, and he covered space well in pass coverage, so I'm very happy with Oren Burks and the way he played in Nakobe Dean's absence. Now, Zach Baldwin with the green dot in this game, I feel like he was able to call a good game, and he was able to let his defense know what's up. And that's why I said if Zach Baldwin is able to conduct this defense, we're going to be okay. And he did just that. They gave up 15 points going into the fourth quarter, and those points actually they didn't even give up 50. 2 points were from a safety, and they gave up points later in the game when they were playing very passive on defense. So I really think the defense played really well under Zach Baldwin with the green dot. Now, somebody on defense that I really want to point out is Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter was incredible in this game. He's a game changer, and that's what he's been since he came over to the Eagles. This season was a great breakout year for Jalen Carter, and he salted the game away with that sack at the end on Matthew Stafford. It was just incredible. I was over at my friend's house. We were all watching that together, and it was just insane. We were so hyped to see Jalen Carter with that sack, and he's just looked incredible. He's penetrating these offensive lines, and I just love what I'm seeing out of him. If he keeps this up, we're going to have many good years to come with Jalen Carter. This D-line is looking really nice with him, Milton Williams. You know, you got Josh Sweat in there. Jalex Hunt even had a sack in this game. He looks really good. I think he's going to be one of our DNs of the future. I'm just really excited to where this D-line is going. And the last guy I want to talk about on defense is Quinion Mitchell. So Quinion hurt his shoulder, I believe, in the first or second quarter, and he was out for the remainder of the game. It doesn't look like it's going to be a serious injury, so I think he will be back for the game against the Commanders. You know, that's going to be an important matchup for him. He's going to be lined up against Terry McLaurin. Now, he locked up Terry McLaurin in the game at Lincoln Financial Field back, I forget what week it was, but it was the Thursday night game where Terry McLaurin didn't get a catch off of him. But when it was a different story when they went to Washington week 16 and the Eagles lost against the Commanders, Terry McLaurin had a touchdown. He had a pretty good game against Quinion Mitchell. So they're 1-1 against each other, and this is going to be the rubber match between the two, and it's going to be the rubber match between the Eagles and the Commanders. Now moving on to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, he didn't really have a great game. I'm not going to say he was terrible. I just think he was average. He was not great. He just wasn't great in this game. He was 15 for 20, so that's a 75% completion percentage, 128 passing yards, no passing touchdowns, but he also did have 70 rushing yards with that big, long rushing touchdown in the first quarter, and he also took 7 sacks. Now, that's my biggest pet peeve. He took so many sacks, he wasn't reading the field well. Now, the big thing with Jalen Hurts since his concussion has been his decision-making and awareness. I don't know what's up with it. There's guys open over the middle of the field, like we saw with Dallas Goedert when he took the safety. Dallas Goedert was right in front of him over the middle of the field, but he decided to hold the ball, and he ended up taking a safety. Now, we need Jalen Hurts to have better decision making than this. We need him to be able to see the field at all angles. Kellen Moore, he hasn't been calling up the best plays, and guys haven't been open as much as they were earlier in the season, but there's still times when Hurts needs to throw the ball away or make a decision or even run. We haven't seen him scramble as good as he used to. He's running like he used to, but he's not scrambling out of the pocket and extending the play as much as we saw back in 2022. Now, he needs to make better decisions with throwing the ball or when to throw the ball, and he needs to see the field better. So that's a couple takeaways that I saw from Jalen in this game. And also, he injured his knee. I believe it was the fourth quarter, or maybe the end of the third. He got fallen on. We were a little worried it was going to be a torn ACL from first looks, but it looks like he's going to be okay. He's going to be out there against the Commanders. But that's just something to keep in mind in terms of his mobility. He didn't look very mobile in the second half after his knee injury, so we really want to look at that knee injury going forward, and I'll talk about that later in the week. Now, thoughts on him moving forward. He needs to play better than this. If we want to win the Super Bowl this year, if we want to make it to the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts needs to play better. I'm not saying he has to throw for 250 yards or even like anything like that, run for 100. I'm not saying anything like that. All he needs to do is keep not turning the ball over, which he's not turned the ball over in the playoffs yet, which I'm very happy with. If we don't turn the ball over, I think we win. That's like what I said. It doesn't matter how Jalen plays. If he doesn't turn the ball over, I think he puts us in a good enough position to win, especially with our defense. So if Jalen Hurts just doesn't turn the ball over, if he has better decision making, which I think he will do, I think that there's something up with him. He doesn't look like the Jalen Hurts we saw early in the season when he was in a run, where he was in a roll. He was doing really good earlier in the season, and then it all ended after he got hurt with that concussion. So I want to get that old Jalen Hurts back, the Jalen Hurts we saw all season, and I think we could get that against the Commanders. We'll really see what's wrong with him in this game. If he comes out and has another bad game, then you start to worry about the future of Jalen Hurts and can he get back to what he was after his concussion. But if he comes out and has a really good game, then I think these last two games were just fluke games, and he wasn't fully adapted back to the real speed of the NFL. But I really think that Jalen Hurts is going to improve on his outing from this week, and I think he played good enough to win. I think that if it's very tough because I love Hurts, but I think that he needs to play a lot better. We can't be having these 7 sacks a game, and a lot of them were on him. Those are gonna cost us eventually. You can't be taking a safety like that. But so Jalen Hurts has to play a lot better. Now going on to Kellen Moore, why aren't receivers open? I just don't understand this. A lot of the reason why Hurts is getting sacked a lot and he's not throwing the ball away is because when he's still in the pocket, he can't just throw it away or to be intentional grounding. But the receivers are not open. You've seen it on plenty of film across social media, and you've seen it across just watching the games that receivers don't get open as much as they used to. Now, these playoff games looked very Brian Johnson-esque in the fact that nobody's running over the middle. There's no slants being called. It's just, I don't see a lot of slants or routes over the middle at all. And I brought this up to my friends. I was a little pissed off about nothing going over the middle of the field. And when we did finally throw it over the middle of the field, it was a long gain to Dallas Goedert. So running plays over the middle of the field are important, and that's where Jalen Hurts can thrive. But he's just not getting these play calls that we would like to see. Now, I don't know if Kellen Moore is distracted by these head coaching interviews. I don't think he is, but they've got to be on his mind, and they had to have sidetracked him a little bit from his game plan because he just doesn't look the same. These play calls don't look the same as they did back in the regular season, so he needs to get on the ball. Washington is going to be a tough game. We need to get, and with their offense, we need to score as many points as we can because we don't know how our defense is going to hold up against this much improved Washington offense. And with Jaden Daniels, who is playing insane and out of his mind. Now, a quick outlook on Washington. I'm not going to get into too much right now because I do want to do a Washington Commanders preview for the NFC Championship game. Guys, this is insane. I thought there was no chance we would have an Eagles-Commanders NFC Championship game to punch a ticket to the Super Bowl. This is like unheard of, like division rivalry. It's just so fun. I'm so excited for this game. But a quick outlook on them. Jaden Daniels, he's the biggest takeaway we have. He's their star. He's going to be their franchise quarterback for years to come. We're going to have to deal with him so much more in the next few years, in the next decade probably. But we just have to worry about stopping him in this game, and we really need to limit him going out of the pocket, which I think the Eagles' defensive ends can do. And we want him to make throws inside of the pocket. We don't want him to scramble. He's very good. I think he's one of the best in the league at extending the play when he gets out of the pocket. And he's like one of the best completion percentages or something. I saw a stat like that. So we want to keep him in the pocket as much as we can. And I'll talk about that later in my next video. But we need to limit Jaden Daniels and his production. Quinion Mitchell has to have a really good game against Terry McLaurin and the rest of the Washington wide receivers. And yeah, that's really all I want to say about Washington right now. I'm not going to go too much depth into their scheme right now, but we'll talk about them in the preview for the Washington game. Now, the last thing I want to leave you guys with is, can this Eagles team win it all? I think they can. I think this is the best team we've seen since the Super Bowl victory run in 2017. I think they're even better than our 2022 team, and that 2022 team was very good. And the only thing I think we're missing from this team is that we don't have that same Jalen Hurts, but I think we can get that same Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a winner, and if he wants to, I know he wants to win this Super Bowl more than anyone. I think he steps it up and plays like the winner we all know he is. So I think this team can win it all. I think they should. This is the year to do it. You know, you're playing Washington. I know they're an underdog story. They're a really good team right now, but they are the 6th seed, and the Eagles have beat them earlier in the year, and we're very close to beating them again without a drop from Devontae Smith, and also Kenny Pickett was playing that entire game. So we should have been 2-0 against Washington this year, and this is going to be the rubber match. This is going to be what proves to prove that this Eagles team is meant to win a Super Bowl. And we're either going to get Buffalo or Kansas City in the Super Bowl, but we'll worry about that when the time comes. But for now, leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of my Eagles content coming forward. I'm really excited for what's to come, and just go Birds, baby. Let's do this. Washington and Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game. I'll catch you guys in the next one.